Hi, friends. This is Pastor Chris of the Presbyterian Church of Marion, and we continue looking at the 7 last words or phrases of Jesus while on the cross. And here is Amanda Kanouff to share with you.
Luke chapter 23, verse 43. And Jesus replied, I assure you, today you will be with me in paradise. If you've watched any of the cinematic recreations of Jesus' crucifixion, it's not hard for you to visualize the scene unfolding. By now, Jesus has already been whipped, ridiculed, a crown of thorns forced on his head, spit on, stripped, and forced to carry the cross he would later die on. All of this to be nailed and lifted above the crowd who condemned him so they could watch him die alongside 2 criminals. How humiliating and painful for Jesus, yet he suffered all of this in silence. How devastating for Mary, watching her son fulfill his destiny to save mankind from sin. It's hard not to be moved by the mix of emotions when you imagine the scene. Jesus' suffering, the grief of Mary, the disciples, and his followers, the crowd's bloodlust. Despite all they did to him, Jesus still cried out to his Father to forgive them, as you heard in yesterday's lesson. Imagine suffering the worst pain and humiliation another human could inflict on you, and yet asking God's forgiveness for them. I don't know about you, but I'd be hard-pressed to show that kind of grace. But admittedly, we're not talking about a regular human man here. To make matters worse, as he hung on the cross, one of the criminals beside him began to mock Jesus, saying in verse 39, So you're the Messiah, are you? Prove it by saving yourself, and us too while you're at it. According to the law, that man deserved to die for his crimes he committed, and I imagine he knew who Jesus was. His reputation tended to precede him. But yet he still had the audacity to belittle an innocent man and insist Jesus should prove his own identity. But then the other criminal spoke up, defending Jesus. The criminal knew he deserved to die for what he did, but that Jesus was innocent. He knew Jesus would be going to heaven and asked that Jesus remember him in death. Jesus replied to him in verse 43, I assure you, today you will be with me in paradise. How comforting would that have made the final moments of an excruciating death for that man who believed, knowing that he would receive salvation, even though he committed crimes punishable by death. How comforting for us that we who believe can receive eternal life, and at the end of our time on earth, join Jesus in paradise.